Good morning, everyone. My DAC family. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Ellen Wynn. I've been with DAC for over 7 years, and I'm really excited to be leading today's huddle. I've been um, busy building my business, supporting a team, and I also have other businesses. So DAC is not the only thing that I do, but by building this business in addition to my limousine company and an insurance agency, it has afforded me a lifestyle that most people can only dream of. So I want to get started by giving us our title for today's huddle is Storytelling Builds Trust and Credibility. And to kick that off, I'll give you a quick background on how I got started because I think some key notes can be taken away from my personal story of getting started with DAC. So back 7 years ago, I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw a couple of really good friends of mine who live out in Texas. They're self-made millionaires, and they had created a live video stream on Facebook telling their story about how they had just helped a small business, an IT company, get over $100,000 that they had applied through the bank. The bank was unable to help them, and they were able to help this business get funding. And they also said in return, they received a nice commission with a comma in it. When I saw that, it really resonated with me. I sent them a message and I said, "Hey guys, what are you up to? I saw your Facebook Live on helping a business get funded." And they quickly responded. They sent me over to the partner page on the David Allen Capital site, just like we have today. Just the presentation was a little different then than it is now, but very similar. I watched that presentation and it really resonated with me. Why? Well, I've been a business owner since 1997. I used to own a couple of restaurants, and from going from one restaurant to a second location, I was needing working capital, and I could only get part of what I needed from my bank. So back then in 1997, I ended up draining my 401k, actually borrowing some money from family and doing whatever I needed to do when the bank couldn't help me. So I really felt I put myself in those business owner shoes when I saw and heard David tell the DAC story. So it resonated. And, that's my why. Yesterday's message from Matt on why really led me into let me tell my story and show you how that can resonate with your audience. So that's why I'm here. The key takeaway on my story is share your story and why you believe in DAC, or share your story about helping business owners get funding, because that story is really what caught my ear outside of a large commission opportunity there. But storytelling always sells rather than facts, right? We talk about facts tell and stories sell. So with that said, I want to get us into our funding story of the day. And this is on a restaurant out of Florida. We have broker is Bill Owen. Congratulations, Bill, for getting this business through the funding process. This restaurant's been in business for 2 years. However, their FICO score is too low for any A lender, and an A lender would include a bank, right? So FICO score is too low to get traditional funding. The revenue is pretty strong. It fluctuates between 73,000 and 75,000. With 1 month, they hit 116,000, but that's not their average. Now, they were looking for 130,000, and we were able to bring back an offer for them for $120,000 on a 12-month payback and 1.41 flex rate, with a very good prepay discount if they decide to pay it back early, or they could get a much lower rate if they would like a 9-month term. So if you've not had a funding client presented an offer yet, most of the time our team is going to present multiple offers to them. Well, in this example, where we're showing them where they can do a 12-month with X as their payback, or they can do a shorter term and what the payback numbers look like. So that's a great story there. Congratulations again to Bill Owen for getting that conversation started and getting that business through the process. Now,
Hey, Ellen, this is
yes,
Wade. Just
yeah,
on
hey,
that,
Wade.
that very quickly. Sorry to interrupt. The we presented this already this morning. They've accepted. They signed. They've done the bank verification, and now we're in final review to make sure there's nothing that we missed. And then we'll call them, and if all goes well, we'll fund it today. Just letting you know.
Excellent, excellent. Again, congratulations and way to go, team at Bank Breezy. Thanks for sharing that, Wade. I'm glad you shared that, Wade, because I want to, as part of my huddle message today, is talking about not having to be the expert, and that's a prime example of what you guys have done to get this along. You're just giving an update. I see a lot of times where we have new brokers or even experienced brokers that may have a background in the financial space where they step in and they feel like they need to be the expert and they need to be able to answer all their questions for their client. And that's just not the case. As I shared, I've been here over 7 years, and Wade can attest to this. Anytime I have someone in process, I just want to make sure that our team has communicated. If I see an offer presented, I may send a message and say, hey, did you talk to them in person or was it just email? The only time I step in is if I need to be the liaison for our funding team to be able to communicate with the client. If the client's non-responsive, then I'll make sure that they're answering the call, or I'll get them on the phone and connect that call. Otherwise, I stay out of the way. I don't want to be the expert, although I know the answer to 99.9% of the questions, and I've seen all those different scenarios presented. But I'll let our expert team over at Bank Breezy be the experts, because they're the ones that see everything behind the scenes. They're the ones that see all of the different offers. They're the ones that see how many lenders have said yes, how many lenders have already declined to make an offer. So they know the whole scenario. So always trust on our experts to be the one that are presenting and making that offer helping that offer across the finish line. Okay. Great job again to Bill Owen. All right, let's talk about the facts tell, stories sell message that we have been talking about for so long. And today I want to share how you can tell your story, whether it's being on live videos, which my opening story was sharing how a live video really caught my attention, where they were talking and recording themselves and just telling their story. How you can do that, or you can take some of the videos that McGuire has done, and you can do the remix and tell your story on that as you're sharing the video, or you can do a live in person. And that's what I want to talk about today, is how I take my stories and I use our funding stories that we have and turn that into my own, whether it's my personal client or not, and I do it in networking meetings. So give you an example of an opportunity where I go to networking, whether it's my Chamber of Commerce or any other local networking opportunity here in my community or in somewhere abroad, where I've got an opportunity to introduce myself. And the flow goes like this. I want to introduce, my name is Ellen Wynn. I'm in business capital or alternative commercial lending. Commercial lending seems to be a term that more people pick up on than business funding. So I've started using that in my storytelling, alternative commercial lending. And we help businesses get capital when they can't get approved at their local bank. For example, and then I go into a story and I might say, we just helped a restaurant who didn't qualify at their bank. They had challenged credit. They weren't able to get funded at their bank, but we were able to get them an offer for $120,000. And we're going to be able to do that quick turnaround, get them funded from the day they applied to the next day that cash is going to be in their bank. So that might be a story that I would share, or a personal story, or telling a story about how we've helped a business get funding and they've come back time and time again and been able to expand from one location to 2 or 3 or 4 locations over time. We have many of these different stories in our huddles. When you're telling a story, you will always want it to be more about the audience and who is hearing your message rather than the story being about yourself. Again, facts tell what you do, but that story is going to be what resonates with someone and makes it memorable for them, to be able to come back and say, hey, I heard a story, right? I know for me personally, when I hear facts and figures, it all just kind of jumbles in my mind. Although I'm great at math, all those numbers, I can't remember the details of the numbers. But if you tell me a story, I'll be able to remember the story and how that flows. And I think a lot of people are that way as well.